Hello, everyone. This is the Breathing Problem Productions podcast. I'm Rusty Kelly.
And I'm Amelia McKay.
And today we have our very special guest, Mitchell Crites-Krumm, a.k.a. Immortalist. Say hi, Mitchell.
Hey.
Hey. So today we're doing a Zoom podcast, and the idea was we're going to talk about our all personal history with video games. Video games have been a huge part of my life, especially also like in recovery, getting sober. I rediscovered my love of video games, and it was a huge part of helping me deal with just all the insanity in my mind. It helps me really focus on one thing. But anyway, we wanted to talk about our history with video games, our love of video games, it's kind of broad, but I have some beginning stuff we could talk about. So one idea I had to start was, Mitchell, did you want to talk about some of your first memories of video games as a kid? If you have any, some of your earliest memories?
Well, it was definitely all LucasArts adventure games. With playing with my mom for sure.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's funny because I talked to my mom the other day on the phone, and she still remembers all those games. I started to realize that she was actually playing them.
Yeah,
I was watching.
Yeah.
But I was talking to her about Seventh Guest the other day, and she's like, "Oh my god, that one was so scary."
Yeah.
I know, it literally gave me nightmares for years.
Yeah.
Little did I know it's critically panned so hard.
I mean, I have total memories too of forcing my mom to figure out how to install Seventh Guest, which learning to install a game was its own game in itself back then.
I did a book report in third grade on the Seventh Guest strategy guide.
Oh fuck! See, I wish I did that. That's amazing. Well, see,
I can't believe they let me do that.
Dude,
what was I even doing?
Where did you go?
I was writing a Lee.
Oh,
Robert E. Lee.
Oh wow, Texas.
No longer called that.
Yeah, right. Only until this year, probably.
Yeah. It's still called Lee. I don't remember what they changed, whose name they changed it to. I think they should have done Bruce Lee or something.
Right, or any kid name that. Did you? I have memories. I think one thing that's interesting to me is there's the dumb meme of girls don't play video games, and I think what's interesting to me is I have nothing but memories of my mom playing games with me, helping me play video games. Like you said, I was watching my mom essentially play a game that I would be next to her. And I mean, as a side note, my mom loves Doom and loves video games. Of course, that's total bullshit. But okay, well, beyond, did you play as you went on? Do you remember the first games you actually played, where you sat and played a game?
I mean, I guess it was Sam and Max. I remember getting very deeply into and getting to the end and kind of understanding it. I do actually. I think my first actual video game memory is my older sister was super into Zelda 2 and it had it on NES. And I really wanted to play it when I was a kid because she was my older sister and she played it all the time. And one time she was gone from the house or something. Whatever the situation was, I snuck into her room in classic little brother style. I tried to play and I just deleted her save file.
Oh fuck! Uh-oh.
She was very angry.
Oh my god!
I got some of that gamer rage early, I guess. But yeah, the thing about it's really interesting what you're saying about how the games became a boy club, because I think they really did become a boys club. It was part of the 90s video game marketing push was to consolidate the audience to adolescent boys, because before then games didn't really have a target audience.
Well, right, it was people in an arcade. If you were in the arcade hanging out drinking or if you were underage, that seemed pretty genderless. I don't know, I wasn't around in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah, I mean, also games back then, now think about what games are. They have so much fidelity to show all these crazy things. Back then, the difference between, a popular game for kids and solitaire is
nothing. Right.
It's the same shit.
Right. Yeah, totally. I think, I was thinking about like I wish I still had it, but there was a recorded, like I made my mom put a video camera up to our TV in like 1993, and she had the NES, and we were playing this game that I bought again. It's called Abidax. It's like a shoot 'em up game. I think that's the
I
name
don't know
of it.
that.
It's just like a generic shoot 'em up, whatever. It's a cool game. But in the recording, you can hear me yelling at my mom. I'm like 5, like, "Mom, you died! You died!" I probably wasn't saying fuck, but you died. Go again. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna try. And this game is like known as being like super. I mean, all Nintendo games were, but it's a super hard game. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's but as it went on, yeah, like I remember playing the LucasArts game The Dig with my mom.
Oh yeah, The Dig. I always forget about that one. I love that one too. Do you
Yeah.
remember the little mini game it was like a lunar lander mini game?
Yes, yeah, and I can remember.
Yeah.
I can remember playing. I can remember playing this game with my mom, and then not having a strategy guide, so you'd have to call a 900 number to get a hint.
Oh yeah,
and it was just like basically a paid cheat guy.
yeah. I mean, that was like the early microtransactions.
Yeah, it was
the games
like
were purposefully designed to be obtuse. So
oh yeah,
call it.
I mean yeah, because like I think in the box it was like, if you're stuck, call our 900 number that we own. So you paid for. If people don't realize as they're listening, you had to pay for the secrets of how to beat these super moon logic-y puzzles.
Yeah, and it makes you think like, was Moon Logic that's a product of like new developers not really knowing what they're doing, or was it more sinister?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, do you remember, like, as time went on, did you get an NES, or did you have a Sega, or what did you have?
Yeah, I got an NES. I never had a Sega, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I had a Sega friend who
Right.
had a Sega.
Right.
But I had an NES, but it was past it being like SNES was already out, and I had an NES because my parents were kind of anti-games for a while when I was a kid.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah, they got caught up in the whole games are gonna make you go shoot your school or whatever.
Yeah.
So for a while, they really thought like games are going to make me violent, and so I remember specifically what happened. So you could still rent NES games at Blockbusters at this point. So I rented the Cliffhanger video game, which is actually my favorite movie at the time too.
Whoa, hell yeah! I remember it the first one.
So I rented the Cliffhanger video game, and it starts off. All I remember is the very beginning, but you're on like the snowy mountain, and you're like shooting wolves or something.
Mm-hmm.
So then like a couple weeks later, I'm like literally 6 or something at the time. And we had a miniature dachshund, and I dropped it.
Uh-huh.
And my parents thought I had done it, or my mom said I did it on purpose.
Oh God.
Because video games had like twisted me into this violent person.
Oh my God.
And I was like, basically didn't have video games the next 4 years. Like,
what? That's crazy.
Yeah, so I just didn't play them for a long time. And then later on, I had this friend in elementary school. And he was like really into video games, and he was a collector, I guess. I'd never even thought about doing something like that. I just liked playing them. But he kind of got me into that world, and I started buying like SNES JRPGs and stuff. And this is, they were kind of expensive already, but not.
So is this like the late 90s or?
Yeah, I was at Kirby Hall then. I guess so. Yeah, something. What grade would that have been? 3rd, 4th grade, something like that.
Okay, right. Well, that's interesting.
So yeah, mid-90s.
So you had this friend that was already like, these are interesting games to get that you should have.
Yeah, he collected Hulk stuff before.
Whoa, that's interesting.
And then we went from Hulk merchandise over to games. Eventually, he had like an arcade cabinet. And he had all the cool stuff.
Whoa, yeah.
I played a PlayStation 1 at his house for the very first time. We played Jumping Flash in Resident Evil 1. Resident Evil 1, we literally turned it off after the first zombie.
Yeah. Dude, that's a crazy thing. I mean, I'm sure many kids can relate to this, but I rented Resident Evil 1 with a friend on a Friday, and then the moment you see the little chomping video, and the moment that you get back into the game and the zombies coming at you, I was like, fuck this, turned it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
and then I guess it's too dumb to realize how cool Jumping Flash is.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
At the time, I was like, it looked bad to me, even seeing a PlayStation game for the first time, because it was like low poly, not representative of any like real life thing, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
It was more like a geometric map.
Yeah.
And it was also decidedly kiddie. And,
Yeah.
you know, when you're that age, you're like, this shit's for babies.
Yeah.
And it was like literally called like Kitty Doom.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's insane. It's such a cool game. It's a first-person shooter.
I've never played it. I
platformer.
need to look at it. I don't
It's
think
the same people who made the Ghost in the Shell PSX game.
Interesting. Whoa.
Yeah.
And Amelia, I wanted to ask you, like, because we have your mini list of games that you love. Because Amelia is different in the games that she's obsessed with. Amelia like loves the game Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. If people,
Did I put that on my list?
I don't know, but people who are listening to this that don't know what that game is, it's like a newer game that's kind of like is really minimal. You're climbing up this mountain and it's very physical. You got to use a mouse. It was kind of designed to be like a viral thing, and it's very self-aware. Anyway, it's worth playing. Yeah. But I'm bad at the game. I'm very terrible at the game. But Amelia, who still hasn't beaten it but loves playing it, she'll like just turn it on. And what do you think? Why do you like the game? Like, what do you think it does for you?
I think like the discipline of it is kind of like hilarious because you just like always fall, and like it's like constantly making the statement about how like absurd life is or something, like in this way, and like you're just failing because it is like fun to totally just like crash and burn. Yeah. And like yeah, for sure. It's like an awesome game. It'll make you like laugh super hard because it's just like you're like a guy in a bucket with like a hammer and that's all you have. It's like so fucked up. But I like the first video game I was like obsessed with was like my family bought their first computer from our neighbor and it already had like games on it. And there's this game called Chips Challenge on it that's like a puzzle game. And to this day, like I'll still play it, and like it's just like endless like levels of different puzzles, and like it's worth checking out. It's
and for people that haven't heard of this game, I hadn't heard of it when Amelia showed it to me, but it's like, from what I can tell, it was maybe designed in the late 80s or early 90s.
I think 89.
Okay, yeah, for computers, for PCs, and it's like a very simplistic, you're just a little character that kind of moves on a grid, and there's kind of traps that are designed. You got to get a key to open a door, and you have to collect these chips, computer chips. And it's very simple, like get point A to point B. But then it gets more complex as there's different kinds of enemies. There's different traps, like I already said that. But what's interesting is
different like shoes that give you the ability to walk on different surfaces and stuff like that.
And it almost seems like the way I view it is it might be a great game design 101 type thing, because the game can be super simple, but then as you by the way, all the levels are all like become eventually user designed. Like Amelia will play the Chips Challenge game and they're all, as she's gone past all these levels, they're all like made by fans. So
really?
Yeah. And so the levels start to feel like, this early kind of modding culture thing where like, people get to slowly make the levels more and more complex. There's all these different hoops you have to go through. But I think that's what's interesting is like Amelia loves this game Getting Over It that's in a way very minimalistic, but also like there's a lot of possibilities intellectually. And then Chips Challenge is very simplistic to a certain extent, but it builds on itself in terms of the community. And then
The Witness.
The Witness is the game. Yeah. Which we've all of us have played. It's like another kind of puzzle game that has a lot of like interesting kind of intellectual stuff. But I just wanted to...
All these games also have like all their onboarding like built into the game.
Oh yeah.
I think, and that's like also I think a quality of a lot of older games is like within the first 2 minutes of playing the game, you know what the game is. You can kind of see where it's going, what it's going to do, what it's going to challenge you with. Modern games, I mean, 2 hours of cutscenes later, you're like, all right, what's this game about? And then 60 hours in, you're like, man, this game sucks.
Yeah. Or like more and more games that are just like the title of the game is 2 hours in or whatever. Oh, it's just funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and another thing, a game that just really quickly, Amelia, that you liked a lot, but you couldn't really play because you have motion sickness, was you said Super Monkey Ball was a game.
Oh my god, yeah.
Why did I not put that on my list? Oh my god. Super Monkey Ball is the best.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, it made me so sad because I have I'm just one of those people that if I watch it, it'll make me want to vomit,
Because you have motion sickness.
Yeah. And so it was so depressing as a kid. It was Christmas Eve and my cousins had it. They got it for Christmas and we were playing it. And then I got such bad motion sickness that I was sick the entire day of Christmas.
But you never forgot the game. And again, it's a similar game as to what Mitchell says, where what Super Monkey Ball is.
Yeah.
It is what it is from the first level. It just builds on itself.
It's also weird. It's Super Monkey Ball is the only, fairly modern. I guess it's kind of dead now, but the only marble run game that's ever really had any sustainability for some reason.
No,
I guess it's just because it has great aesthetic and the soundtrack. Oh my god. I love the soundtrack.
Well, Mitchell, okay, so if we're going on a little narrative back to the dog, you're in elementary school, your friend, did you play RPGs early on? I didn't play
I played the SNES ones. I played Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 2/4, and 6. Wait, is that right?
Yeah, 3/6 or whatever.
Yeah. Now I'm getting them mixed up. I played those when I was a kid. And I guess probably, so this has got to be 97 or something, because I don't think I was into RPGs before Final Fantasy 7. Everybody was.
Yeah. I can
Final
relate.
Fantasy 7 always changed the freaking world.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think we're a similar age, and I think what's interesting is I knew about RPGs, but I never finished them, or I would get bored with them. But as Final Fantasy 7 comes around, and I have a PlayStation 1, I remember the weekend that me and a friend finally sat and started playing it, and I didn't just get bored or get frustrated, and stop it. I remember finally getting out of Midgar and going through the whole opening and feeling.
I had a PSN magazine edition on Final Fantasy 7. I was in Colorado at the time. I remember this, and I was looking through the magazine every day. I was so obsessed, and I didn't own the game, but I just got a PlayStation, so I was going to go rent it. But we had to drive an hour to get the Blockbusters because it's out in the mountains or whatever.
Yeah.
And so one day we do our town run, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna rent Final Fantasy 7. I'm so excited. We got it. We get back home, and I open it up and I put it in, and it's not working, and I can't figure it out. They only gave me disc 2.
Oh.
That's so fucked up.
I had no idea, I didn't even know more than one disc. I was what is this?
Yeah. That's the thing as a kid, just games wouldn't work. You'd be horribly frustrated and then just kind of accept it. I don't know, with games not installing properly.
I definitely remember being on the phone with EverQuest tech support for 2 hours trying to get
EverQuest
Toon Arc expansion pack to start working.
I wish I had gotten into EverQuest. I had friends obviously at middle school that loved playing it, but I was my PC wasn't good enough. That was the issue.
And mine probably wasn't either. Yeah. I remember it being incredibly dark.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if that was my PC being fucked up.
Sometimes you
just not understanding it.
Yeah. Sometimes you just didn't know. I was saying to somebody, I was saying it to you the other day that I felt Final Fantasy 7 was our Star Wars for our generation. If you talk to a lot of kids on our age who like video games, at least they all talk about all the characters in Final Fantasy 7 and the lore of Final Fantasy 7 in the same way that I can kind of remember documentaries or pop culture talking about the greatness of Star Wars, at least that was what it was for me, where I It was one
So
of the
what's
first.
the new Star Wars?
Oh, dude, I don't know, right? Like, I don't
Final
know what.
Fantasy remake?
Oh God, hell no, no.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, it's just Final. I remember Final Fantasy VII when I started to realize that the story was going in an interestingly weird direction. It blew my mind. Where I was like, oh, this isn't just about what I assumed it was going to be about us fighting Shinra through the whole game, and that the President Shinra is going to be the big bad guy, and that was that was kind of what I assumed the game was going to be, and then all of a sudden we get to this part of the game where he gets killed, and things start to shift around and get weirder and weirder.
Yeah, little did we know that's like a staple of FF too.
Right, yeah, and I think I can remember literally like downloading like lore packets, like trying to explain the game and like reading through them, like pages online, trying to really understand the weirdness of the story. And even, I mean, there's also something to be said of how many like, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but obviously there's like a million twists in Final Fantasy VII, maybe too many twists, I don't know. I mean, I love the game.
The story doesn't matter.
Yeah. Really. I mean, yeah. It's about it's about the journey and the characters, right?
Yeah.
And I think I can. Did you play the game with a friend, or did you just beat it alone when you finally got it?
I definitely played it like concurrently with friends playing it.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who had like the in-game save file.
Oh, cool!
So,
right.
And he told me all the tricks, like Knights of the Round.
Right.
And I saw him fight like Ruby and Emerald weapon
shit. Okay,
before I even knew what they were.
Right.
And he was also the one who told me stuff like the underwater materia secret.
Oh, damn.
But then he also, went on to tell me that you could use the underwater materia to resurrect a certain character.
Right. Spoilers to over 20-year-old game that we won't spoil.
It's just such a good moment. And like, I always feel, God, I wish, this is my big issue with games. They take fucking 60 hours to finish them. And
right.
So I'm like, want my like dad who's 70 to be able to like see Final Fantasy VII. Not because I think it's gonna like blow his mind, but I think it's gonna like, if he could like experience that, he'd be like, oh, this is why you are the way.
You love these.
Like,
right.
Like, it's so informative for so many people, but it's such a daunting task for anybody to experience.
It isn't like Star Wars where you can sit down and watch Star Wars for an hour and a half. You got to play this game, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a fucking task, and it's a very long task. I think it's interesting to think, there was these groups of kids that were sitting and like, we weren't necessarily, although certain people read, Lord of the Rings, but sitting there and sitting in front of a TV and just like kind of feeling like I was being taken away to this interesting place where you're connecting with all these characters. And then, of course, like you were talking about with the secrets, I can remember like figuring out how to get the golden chocobo so I could, get the Knights of the Round materia. And it was just such a task of like, oh fuck, I finally did it, anyway, there's plenty to be said about what games can do where you feel like you actually like accomplish something.
I mean, that community effort is so important to all games. I mean, that's why, even though I would say wait a little bit after a new game comes out if you're not super interested to play it, but I like playing games right when they come out because that's when you get that community involvement around discovering all the little intricacies.
Right. And I mean that we could even fast forward to like something like Dark Souls where, for a long time I missed probably a bunch of really good games, but I was doing drugs and I just wasn't playing games like I was before.
Yeah, me too.
And discovering for me, and the way I discovered Dark Souls, and I think it's kind of interesting, it's cheesy too. I was on Reddit and it was like gaming whatever subreddit, and it was like the difference between Skyrim and Dark Souls, and it was like Skyrim has like the little where to go thing, and Dark Souls is just like, hey, there's some bells, maybe ring them or whatever. And
I remember the first time seeing Dark Souls was at your house and at the apartment, and I came over there and you were playing it and you're like, dude, this game is insane. You were like super into it. And I was like, it just looks like you're walking on an infinite cave.
Yeah. Right.
I'm trying to remember, like, now that I've played
I might have been.
I'm like, what section were you in?
I might have been in like the skeleton, like, you know, the whatever, the tombs, the skeleton giant's tomb or something.
Oh yeah, the dark area.
Tomb of the Giants, yeah, something like that, which, you know, is just a dark set of caverns. But I think I remember reading that and going, oh, that sounds weird. That sounds kind of interesting, and just ordering it on Amazon, whatever, some used game. And I can remember playing it, getting past like the opening boss demon, asylum demon, and being like, this isn't that hard. It's like, whatever, this isn't that big of a deal. And sitting there and dying when you get to the undead asylum area. There's like the beginning. You really understand, okay, you got to learn this loop. And you need to like really figure this out. And to this day,
it's unfortunate the marketing about how hard it is kind of messed up the message that the game teaches you at the beginning.
Yeah. I think,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I was lucky to like have gotten it relatively early, in a sense that it hadn't become a total meat.
Yeah.
It hadn't.
I mean, so many people just are like, they go to the skeleton first and then they're dying over and over again. They're like, and you know, I see people online always say, it's like, well, it's obvious you're not supposed to go that way. It's like,
it's not obvious at all.
10 years of people saying like Dark Souls is like the hardest game, bro.
Yeah.
And then like, so you started off and you die constantly and you're like, yeah, this makes sense. This game is really hard.
Yeah, fuck this.
You don't understand that it's like, no, the game's not this hard.
I mean,
there's actually a normal path that makes sense.
Clearly they learned something from it, for better or worse, because in all other games after Dark Souls, you can't really do that. Like, you can't really do that in Bloodborne.
Bloodborne was the first one I played, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And I was stuck at that bonfire area, not the bonfire.
Right.
You know, the bonfire thing in Bloodborne.
Yeah.
I just like couldn't figure it out. I was like trying to kill all the guys over and over again.
Right.
I was like, this is insane. This is so insane. Like, who plays this shit?
Fuck?
And then I finally realized like I could just run past them.
Right.
And I felt like I was cheating.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do this in video games.
Right.
And then I was like, oh wait, this game expects me to use anything that I have to get past it. Which is, you know, that's also kind of why I think, oh, sorry to segue, and we don't have to actually go down this path, but Underrail is similar in that regard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it really like makes you use every tool at your disposal, including like cheesing the game, which I think is fun.
Right.
It means that there's no like self-imposed rules in order to get like the full experience.
Yeah.
About that. Meeting the developers halfway, you know. I always like that.
Well, no, talk about it. No, I think people should hear that.
Okay, so I guess my idea is that when I play games, I have this feeling that I want to have the intended experience. And maybe that's already flawed, and maybe games are flawed for being designed with an intended experience in mind in the first place. But I always want to have, like, you know, when you're developing a game, you can only spend so much time on so much stuff. And I want to have like the most polished, like developer intended path so I can get the message or, you know, whatever they're trying to put in this game out of it.
Yeah.
In a lot of games, I feel like they ask you kind of to meet them halfway. For instance, Death Stranding, where you can like make the game play and look horrible if you want, but if you play the game the way Kojima kind of wants you to play it, it works a lot better. I also had the same experience with Red Dead Redemption 2. Remember, I like played it and I was like, this is like not doing it for me. And then I went back after watching that Noah video. And I was like kind of I felt like, okay, I understand I'm not playing a game where I get to choose. I'm controlling the camera in a movie that's already been created by Rockstar, and I just get to choose where the camera angle is facing. And I was all right, I like this game a lot more now. It's admitted that.
That's a good point. And I think I should probably do that more in some cases. I'm actually like in a game funk, weirdly enough, right now, where like I've been like playing games and I'm like, all right, I need to love this game. I really need to love it. And then it's like, it's not the worst game in the world, but I'm like refusing to stick with it. I've been like not throwing the game, but I want to be like, fuck this. No, this game's not as cool. Like I was texting you like, oh, I'm going to play Alan Wake now. And then
You couldn't get into it?
I played it for a while and it was definitely fun. And then I was like, yeah, I get what this is. And I should probably beat it, but I was just, I don't know, just thinking about certain funks you can get in where you just like, I don't want to give any game that much of a chance. Or like I was playing
you know me, I like never beat anything.
Yeah. Well, I'm weird. Yeah, that's the other thing. I'll beat a game because I start to get in like obsessive compulsive mode where I'm like, I have to beat this game. It's on this list that I have. But that's like a whole other thing.
Well, that's like how you play games. That's like your goal, right? You're a completionist in a way.
Yeah. I think
I just want to see how the game is made. As soon as I can see behind the curtain, I'm like pretty much done with the game. This isn't fun anymore to me.
Well,
I get how it works.
That's valid too, because like I know that I love Super Mario Brothers for NES. I've never beaten Super Mario Brothers. Like I've played the first like 7 levels of Super Mario Brothers, one a million times since the 90s. I don't need to have beaten that game. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. Maybe someday I'll do it to be like, oh, I beat it. But like,
well, it completely changes in level 8.
Oh, right. Does it? No. Yeah. It's like I've watched so many speedruns of that game. No, but like it was okay. It was like kind of. I think that's what's interesting. As games moved on, it was like accepted, or I mean, you were supposed to beat the game. For a long time, you just didn't beat games. It was like an arcade thing. A really obsessive person beat the game. But generally, people played for a while and then whatever,
Yeah. Also, we didn't have very many games back then.
Yeah. I mean, I can just remember having a bunch of NES games as a kid and being like, I know the beginning level of all these games. And maybe if I got to like the 4th level accidentally, I'd be like, oh shit, weird.
Yeah,
this is what this looks like.
Yeah, it's really weird when you revisit games from your childhood and you're like, oh, that huge world I imagine with like the tutorial area.
Yeah.
Never figured out I just need to carry this key 10 feet.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'm just looking at kind of like both of our lists, and actually one thing we all have also is Inside, which I don't know. There's not a lot to say about it. Everyone knows about that game, and it's a cool game. That's another game you like a lot, Amelia.
Yeah.
Is that we played that together, and I don't know. It's like so fun to kind of sit and like figure that game out.
Yeah.
Or it's like a puzzle game.
Unanswerable mysteries, man. Give them to me all day.
Oh, yeah. No, exactly.
Inside also has great trailers, which is a big thing for me. I love trailers.
Oh, like the trailer for it?
Yeah. It got me so hyped, and I'm still going to go back and watch it.
Oh, that's really
I love games where like the mystery starts before the game is released. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess that means I like hype, even though I say I
Yeah.
But
I mean, I can remember the back to Final Fantasy VII, the trailer for Final Fantasy VII. There's like a...
Oh, yeah. The US one where it's like, this game is like took $1 billion. And
I don't know if it was that one. There's
one that's just like a straight like accolades about how much they like spent on it.
There's just this image in Final Fantasy VII, one of the trailers where it shows like the Genova like exterior skeleton kind of thing. It's like this. It looks like a woman's like metal face mask. I don't know. We'd have to look it up, but it was so mysterious and weird.
I know what you're talking about. From the Nibelheim or whatever.
Yeah. It was like essentially the Genova exterior like encasement thing
in the reactor.
Yeah, it looks like a statue or something.
Yeah, that's.
But I was just like, what the fuck is this? What is that strange thing?
Also, I mean, were you into anime before then?
I definitely...
Or was that your big Japanese injection?
I think, there were things on TV, like Speed Racer would randomly be on, which doesn't really count, but I definitely remember...
I don't even think I knew Speed Racer was Japanese when I was a kid.
Maybe, I don't know how but as a kid, though, I definitely, like, I can remember going to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, and they'd have, like, an animation section, and they'd have Akira. It would say, not for kids, or whatever.
They definitely had that I Love too.
Yeah,
Vulcan or one of those.
They would have like they would have Ghost in the Shell, not for kids. And it would 100% make me want to be really interested in seeing what this was. Yeah. And I think, anyway, that's a good question as to when I really, really got it. I mean, I would say I got into anime when my friend in 6th grade or 7th grade rented Evangelion. It was probably 7th grade. This kid that I went to camp with.
That was the first anime I ever saw too.
Hell yeah, yeah. Did you rent it or buy it, or do you remember?
My friend had it who in 6th grade, he was very into the band Cake.
Oh hell yeah.
And he had Evangelion DVDs, and he claimed that he had smoked weed. And I remember one time we spent the night at his house, and he smoked grass from his yard.
Oh my god!
And this little wooden pipe he had whittled.
To impress you.
Yeah, and he's like, "You guys want some?" We're like, "We're good." I mean, I thought it was good. I wasn't like, "Dude, this guy's an idiot." I was like, "I don't want to do drugs."
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna work. I didn't know, but so I remember watching it with him for the first time.
That's sick.
Yeah, he's probably who got me into anime, actually.
So I just remember, this kid who I went to camp with, who we talked about Final Fantasy VII all the time. When I went to Camp Longhorn, which was a lot of bros, but there was this one kid. He was the nerd with me, and he. Anyway, we finally met up outside of camp. And he was like, "You got to check the show out." I don't know. Everyone's probably has this story about Evangelion, but I just remember watching the opening of it. And as we watched all the episodes, it just, once you realize things were weird and strange, and they went beyond a regular mecha show or whatever. Anyway, everyone knows this that has watched Evangelion, but that moment of mystery, of this is beyond what you think it's about, was such an amazing thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was blew my mind.
It seems like a through line for this kind of media.
Yeah. We all love say Twin Peaks and David Lynch and stuff, and just that beauty of mystery and allowing yourself to kind of fall into the intellectual curiosity that goes with all that. You know what I mean?
And that's what games really are all about. Right? So much of it is discovery, exploration, and introduction of new ideas.
Yes. Yeah.
And and it's also I think in a lot of ways, so many game designers at least have struggled for so long about what is the reward. Why do people play games? Especially now where the reward really has to be something nearly tangible in a way. It's what do you unlock? What do you get out of playing this game? Right. And that's what getting over it's kind of about.
Right.
And the witness.
And the witness. And curiosity, what's inside the cube.
Right. Oh yeah, that Peter Molyneux throw.
The ultimate breakdown of games. My favorite thing ever. I love him. He's so earnestly.
Well, yeah. I mean, people that are listening to this who love are interested in game history. There's an amazing Peter Molyneux series by this YouTuber. I'm a Patreon of them.
Kim Justice.
Yes, Kim Justice, and
she just put it together in a. One video too.
Yeah, and it's, if anyone listening is interested and know who Peter Molyneux is, he's a game designer with a storied history, ups and downs and ins and outs, good and bad. It's worth watching. It's you could put it on DVD and sell it. It's a great documentary series. But I think, I don't know, just back to interesting games that I think really blew my mind. I can remember being a kid and sitting and playing say Banjo-Kazooie and trying to figure out all the little secrets and collectibles and really getting into it and understanding it.
Banjo-Kazooie had a lot of that too, especially the weird baked-in sequel stuff that they never ended up pulling on. Do you remember that?
No.
So Banjo-Kazooie 1 had these hints for Banjo-Tooie.
Mm-hmm.
that was like hidden away like in this mountain or something. I don't remember the specifics, but at the time it was, I think the idea was that Banjo-Tooie was going to have some special cart where you could like put the carts on top of each other in your 64 and like transfer save data.
Okay.
But it was still like secret save data. It was,
right.
It really got my imagination going.
Yeah. I think it's interesting the way that like the kind of people being in real life, friends and sleepovers, hanging out, discovering a game, like, you know, friends of mine that I still talk to, like I found that kid that I played, you know, that I watched Evangelion with and played Final Fantasy with. I like hadn't talked to him in 20 years, and I like was like, where's this dude? I found him on Twitter. He's like a pretty big coding developer guy that's worked for a bunch of companies, but
no way, really?
Yeah, but we still remembered those kind of like, you know, you feel like you're collaborating on, you know, the way you feel when you're in a band with somebody, right? You like you guys figured this thing out together. At least though, even if you're watching a show or something. I can remember literally sitting and trying to like. Also, like another interesting thing, like Pokemon. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Is like trying to figure out what the next Pokemon games were going to be and if there was going to be new Pokemon and what they were. Like, were you ever a big Pokemon dude or no?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Dude, yeah. I have. I bought when I was a kid, I bought Pokemon Yellow, the one with Pikachu.
Right.
Import from Game Fellas.
Oh, Game Fellas, hell yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm totally going to learn Japanese and play this.
Yeah.
I still have the card.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know Japanese.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can remember a kid that I was friends with that I went to school with in 5th and 6th grade. Seeing, this is like a well-known lore about Pokemon. There's a Pokemon called Meryl that everyone thought was called Pika-Blue because it looks kind of like Pikachu that's blue. Its real name's Meryl. But my friend, because he had gotten like Japanese like gifs and images of this Meryl character, made his own GeoCities website called like website dedicated to Pika-Blue. And actually this happened all over America, and if you Google it, and it was like, hey, this is the new Pokemon. This is going to be one of the new ones. Or like talking about Mew, which was that was the 151st Pokemon. But you know, of course, this has been talked about in a million YouTube videos and stuff, but just that kind of like hidden discovery of like, is this real? Is this not real? Just, you know, now you can see like, oh, hey, like in Japan, these games are out. And like, these are what they are. You could even get an import if you really wanted to, you know? And like you said, you got like Pokemon Yellow imported. But it's like, it felt very like...
I mean, I paid like $15 to play PlayStation 2,
right?
Early at Game Fellas,
right? Yeah.
Or something. Like they were like they coveted all this.
Oh yeah,
all this cool stuff from Japan that I wanted really bad.
Dude, at Game Fellas, I got a Pokemon like import card that was Japanese of like Togepi or something like that, and I remember being like, oh, can I get this card, this import card? And there was like this literal Simpsons comic book guy character who was like, ugh, I hate Pokemon. Ugh. It was like a guy in his 30s with like a big beer gut.
Where do you think he's at now?
Right. I mean, he's probably in some interesting forums, but talking about how great the good old days of like, you know, of fandom was, but in reality he was an asshole. That I was like 12 and this guy was like, oh, you like Pokemon? I was like, I can remember actually being like, well, yeah, I'm like a kid, like you're an adult, you're like in your 30s, like can I buy this fucking card from you? And he was like, oh, Pokemon is such a fad, it's so lame. And you know, I'm sure in secret he had like a million like Pokemon posters or something. But it's interesting to think about. Although on the flip side of that, I remember going to Dragon's Lair off Guadalupe as a kid, when Dragon's Lair, the comic book store, was basically like...
That's where I used to go.
It was basically like it was basically like a house, which is so cool to think about. It was just like a residential house they had turned into a comic book store, you know? And there was like cats everywhere and shit. But anyway, those guys were totally nice. Yeah, buying Pokemon cards. I got a Charizard there, I remember, for like $20.
Hell yeah. I used to buy the Japanese import starter packs because that's what I was into. My rarest ones were No Name Dodo.
Uh-huh.
And maybe that was it. I don't remember having another one that was
Yeah.
rare. No Name Dodo was like my prized possession.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
blank.
Uh-huh.
So it just had like a line, like name. So you were like supposed to like write in with a pen the name of
weird.
the Pokemon. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's so
The
cool.
illustration was great too. And then I made some counterfeit Pokemon cards and sold them to my little brother's friends.
Oh.
I would print them on my computer and just paste them, like literally take like a glue stick and paste it on like a shitty Pokemon card, and I'd laminate it.
I'm sure to them.
Yeah, I saw my little brother's friend a Missing No.
Oh, whoa, okay.
Pokemon card, which I made up. But everybody knew about Missing No.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's official. I sold it to him for $20, and I got in a lot of trouble for it.
Oh, because the parents found out later?
The parents saw it, and they were like, this is obviously not real.
You were just
like my MS Paint skills.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's interesting, like, the difference was in our two lists. I have a lot more, like, kind of like PC type games, which I've only recently really put on there. Like, I have, like, Deus Ex and Disco Elysium and Pathologic and, like, Divinity, which are all kind of, like, newer games, aside from Deus Ex, obviously. But games that I more recently played and finally beat that kind of blew my mind. It's just interesting. I mean, I'm sure you know those games.
My list is games that are on my mind right now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, also, I would include a lot of those on a greatest or most influential games list. The other thing is, I think my list is super flawed. I was thinking about this right before we started. I didn't put like a single multiplayer game on there, and I play multiplayer games.
Right.
Fairly frequently. What I noticed was different about our list. I think the big thing I saw was that mine is much more mechanics oriented.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like a lot of my games are like toys almost.
Well, and by the way, for people listening, I'll put in the description of this, like, all the lists, so you guys can just look at them without just me listing them all. I think for mine, there's a lot more of, like, narrative, kind of being inside of a, like, story for a while and kind of just, like, existing in that little world or whatever. I mean, although, you were playing Stalker last year, and then I ended up finally playing Stalker, and I still, when I think of Stalker and just thinking of the atmosphere, Stalker feels like this, such like a weird liminal space of strange vibes. Like, that's what it gets so right. It feels empty and creepy and, like, full of loneliness in a way. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I totally get it. And that's also something I think, like, Jank actually complements fairly well.
Yeah. Stalker and, like, Silent Hill 2, have many, like, at least feeling wise,
I mean, you can't understand jank software.
Right.
Like, software that's predictable and polished feels a particular way. I mean, and jank software has a mystery unknown about it that's, like, unintended, which I think is really cool. I mean, maybe it's the same for also, like, foreign games and stuff.
Yeah.
But I really like that element of.
And that's what's interesting too, is you see people are now trying to, like, recreate that, like, in kind of cheaper horror games. Like, there's this game back in 1990, I think it's 1995 or 1999, by this, like, single developer. Let me make sure I got the name right. Back in 1995. Yeah, it's called Back in 1995. It's a horror game that's 100% just trying to recreate the look and feel of, say, like, Silent Hill 1 / weird janky PS1 kind of games. And in some ways it does recreate it faithfully, but it doesn't in a completely other sense. You know what I mean? It's trying to make it be janky, but you can't. It's hard. How do you try it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like in a movie when they do the old footage scene and it's clearly like a Final Cut, like, overlay or something like that.
Yeah.
Gotta be a filter or some garbage.
Yes, exactly. Or, like, video CRT,
like
imagine,
scan line
yeah,
glitch.
which is weird too, like the way you can play like emulated games and add the scan lines. Like, why would you do that? They don't even look real anyway.
They don't look real. I get the idea because a lot of that early pixel art was designed for the CRT scanline rendering.
Yeah. It's probably best. Yeah.
But I just would never do that.
Yeah.
Also, pixel art. I saw something about this on I think Reddit or something earlier. People talking about it's probably been talked about 1,000 times. I just saw it for the first time, but it's about literally that, like pixel art. And how it was meant to be displayed in a certain way where the what's it called when there's the pixels of checkerboarded to create fades.
I get what you're saying.
I don't know what it's called now. But what they were saying was that I'm losing my train of thought. That was the artist designed that pixel art to be rendered like that, but we've definitely kind of since then, at least in our collective nostalgia, have decided that pixel art is crisp.
Right.
That pixel art is actually hyper light drifter.
Right.
When it was definitely soft as hell back in the day.
Yeah.
But I like the new aesthetic too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
No, for sure. And also it's in some ways it's and I have one of these, get an old TV and play the games and the way they're kind of meant to be viewed, like you're saying. Amelia, do you I guess I was gonna ask, did you ever feel left out in as a kid, would boys play video games around you, like your cousins? Did you ever feel like you didn't relate to those games? Obviously you love the games you love, or did your, or would everyone play games together? Do you have memories of your family playing video games?
Yeah, well, I had an older cousin who was a girl who was into video games, and that was cool. But before that, it was all my cousins on my dad's side who were all boys, they all had games, and it did feel kind of I don't know, in some instances, we'd be on the couch or something, playing at their house and stuff, and they just were on their Game Boy or whatever, and it would be I would be so down to do that, but there was kind of not a sharing thing.
But that's what's interesting to me too, is what the games that you talk about that you really love, these are games I'll sit and watch you play for hours, are games that are in some ways very different from what they kind of tried to sell to the pop culture or boys, whether it's Call of Duty or even games
real games.
Right.
Elevated games, to use that annoying term.
Totally.
I mean, was this something that you ever thought about, or really that annoyed you, or was it just well, whatever,
No, not really. It was kind of just that's a guy's thing. But I was into video games and didn't even really realize it, because it's not the same kind of games,
Right. No, I think that's what's interesting is different types of people. It's not even a gender thing, and with their brains, different types of games. My mom, to this day, when she comes over to the house, she wants me to turn on Doom, and to her that's pure bliss to play Doom and sit there and kill the demons or whatever.
Oh, totally.
Or
that should be on the back of the Doom box.
Yeah, I'm Rusty's mom. Yeah.
It's pure bliss to kill the demons in Doom. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And my mom also loved Perfect Dark for N64. She would sit and literally call my friends up when I was in 7th grade and be call your friend and ask to speak with him. And then she would take the phone and be how do you get past this level in Perfect Dark?
Oh my God.
So cute.
That's so cool.
Yeah, my mom, and that she's still to this day. My mom has an old N64 I gave her the other day, that she had to buy again, and she sits and plays it to just relax. Or she also got really into, she has a Sega, the same Sega that we have from the 90s, and she sits and plays Kid Chameleon, which I don't know if you've ever played, but it's pretty interesting. It's really hard though too. But Amelia, I think, to me, when you are playing something Chip's Challenge, what does it feel like? Does it just feel like you're relaxing?
Well, it's the same exact feeling. It all started after I started taking like medication for ADD, and like I would like come home from school and I would still be like fully on the drug.
On speed.
Yeah, and I couldn't just like take a nap or like eat like or anything, so I would literally just go on my computer and play bubble shooter, and it was like doing something like a streamline of this game was like a portal into my own thoughts, because like I literally couldn't think if I wasn't like doing this task. So like playing the game was so like, it was like a dopamine hit. Like it really like felt like so good to just like zone in after school and do nothing else but that. So like even to this day, it's like the exact same feeling. Like I can just zone so hard and like it feels like so good.
But and that's what's interesting is like obviously you got off, you know, Vyvanse or whatever you're on.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that's its own interesting thing. It's like medicated kids on amphetamines and like feeling like your thoughts can only kind of like work if they're in this very rigid like box of like dopamine hit. Also
because it's like to like stop you from like looking out the window and having like a daydream, basically. Like you have like you lose that capacity to even like have a daydream in the middle of the day, just like think about like imagine something. So like I would literally have to focus in on one thing that wasn't like, it wasn't like doing your homework or something. It was like an empty task. Like playing bubble shooter is like literally the most like vapid game because you're just like matching colors and balls. But it was like, it's like purely just like to, I don't know, think about something else in a way.
It's almost like a fidget spinner, like smoking or compulsive eating or something like that.
For sure.
I mean, it's also reminds me of how people, you know, people walk when they're thinking, or I pace. I'm a pacer. I'm well known for pacing. I pace up and everywhere. And when I pace when I'm on my phone like crazy. And it reminds me of that kind of, where it's like you have to get into this weird flow state for like you to be able to, it's not quite conscious. It's like you're creating this like almost like hypnotized state where like part of your brain can be focused on this tangible task while the other part of your brain is like freed up to really wander and like process stuff.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean,
it's so true.
I think that goes into like for me getting sober, because I was talking to Amelia about this, like where I watch these videos of people that are like on the streets or like have issues of drugs or whatever. People talking about how they try to get off drugs and then they feel boredom. They feel intense boredom, and they don't know how to fill that void of even boredom. And that's something I related to so much. I would get sober and then I'd be sitting in a room and being like, fuck. I mean, aside from being like depressed or sad or having to deal with shit that I had done, the real feeling of like my brain, my intellectual brain needs to connect with something, you know? And I would then, you know, end up relapsing. But I think I can remember, you know, getting sober for like a year or so before I started playing, say, like Dark Souls again. But it was that kind of joy of just like, I don't even think it was nostalgic joy, which, you know, that's there too. But it was the joy of like connecting with this like complex, interesting game. Like a game, just like reading a novel or something, intellectually does something to your soul or your mind. That's the best form of a game to me. You know what I mean? Where you're like truly like gaining something like really beautiful and great. But at the same time, I think, you know, I don't think the answer to everyone trying to get sober is to play video games, but but I think
there's also like the argument that games like are, you know, designed with their release schedules and marketing to give us that super similar dopamine hit of new game release.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that probably has some legitimacy to it. That's why you see so many, you know, raging gamers when the Nintendo Direct doesn't have anything.
Right.
garbage on it.
Well, right. No, totally. I mean, I think we were joking you could make like a game called like Game Hype the Game, where you like have to like it could be like a clicker game where you have to be the PR team who like makes leaks happen, or you like make sure the Reddit page is like going correctly, and you have to put X amount of tweets every day and have X amount of engagements, right? Because that's what essentially, happened with Cyberpunk and all kinds of games. You know what I mean? Like, and even Last of Us 2, that was a game that many people liked, but something should be said for the hype around it, right?
Well, the marketers are nearly designing games at AAA studios now.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Look at Anthem, for instance. Like, the developers like aren't seeing basically what the like vertical slice is until they are showing it at E3 as a
like,
promo video. They're like, oh, that's what we're making.
yeah, it's so fucked up. It's insane. And like, of course, Cyberpunk, we all know, everyone's mind was blown. It could be argued that Cyberpunk was a game that was really just the subreddit. That was the best part of it, was watching the subreddit and being like, what could this game be? It reminded me of being a kid and being like, what could the new 100 Pokemon be? Right?
I totally agree with you. I'll argue for that all day. I mean, I told you the other day, Death Stranding started 3 years before the game came out with the trailers and the speculation.
Right.
I mean, exactly. I think that in some games, that's where it starts. Like, I wasn't expecting much from Cyberpunk because I'm not a big fan of that studio in the first place. But now I like Cyberpunk. I haven't even played it, but all the drama and all the speculation, it made me more curious than ever. It made me look up like YouTube videos that are like secrets hidden in Cyberpunk, things that were like left unfinished, like secret areas left unfinished. That is interesting to me. That's cool.
Yeah. No, I love that stuff too. And then of course it's interesting that in this new world, sometimes there's just the critiques and videos that are made about a game are more interesting than the game. All the thinkers and all the interesting video essayists that we watch on YouTube. Mm-hmm. That's one cool thing, of course, about like the technology in the modern world, is to see like people coming together to like really do the best version of what critique can be, which is to kind of push these new interesting ideas and like ways to think about a game or think about any intellectual thing. I don't know, but it's just,
I agree. I think it's also part of the marketing, but I like it.
Oh yeah, it is, of course.
It's all Matrix format. Matrix really pioneered that transmedia ARG marketing phenomenon. Now it's so ingrained. Like I've done work for this one woman who works for these companies that are like kind of big, I guess, content creators. And they do a lot of stuff that is like targeting fandoms.
Right.
How to like integrate fandoms into their marketing campaigns. It's pretty crazy. I'd never seen the other side of that before I started doing that. It's really wild.
I'm sure it's huge. And I mean, just thinking about like, I don't know anything about K-pop Korean bands, but like, it's like a thing on Twitter where like Korean K-pop stans or fans will just like randomly post their favorite K-pop person's like GIF on just a random Twitter thread that's super popular, right? So what ends up happening is the fans love the groups so much, right? That to push the groups, what they do is they find, say, a really popular Twitter thread that day that has like tons of engagement, and then they post a random GIF of their favorite member of their boy group, right? Do you get what I mean? So what it does is it helps push and market that boy group just by being attached to a random popular Twitter thread that could be about oranges or a joke or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it spreads the Venn diagram audience.
Right, and of course, if you talk to these stans, I'm sure most of them would be like, no, this is just what you do because I love them so much, but I'm sure the marketing teams for these people know exactly what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Well, they're at least crossing their fingers.
Right.
That is what's happening, at the very least.
Yeah. It's so cool. Or scary. I don't know. I mean, I think...
it's interesting for fun, for sure. For fun.
Yeah.
It is fun. It's fun if you can watch it and try to not get too inundated with it or
and relying on it and needing
yeah.
it. Yeah, I think people literally. I always think it's a joke, but like you said, people getting mad that the Nintendo Direct doesn't have enough games, or it's like people are like, why aren't there enough PS5 games? It's like, I don't know. Didn't something happen in 2020 that really fucked everything out? Like, there's no like Xbox One whatever games. Like, yeah, I know, yeah, right. People are truly upset, and
but that's a wider disconnect too than just games, I think.
Right,
that's like generally
thing.
That's like culture. It's simultaneously saying coronavirus is going to be the literal end of the world.
Right.
But it's also not really that big of a deal. I think about this crap all the time. The way it's like the government has advised you to do this, but also you can get really cheap plane tickets for a vacation out of the country.
Right.
Like there's mixed messaging coming from every direction.
I mean that's the thing. It's like
so I get that like some dumbass teenagers and some dumbass 30, 40-year-olds who read only teenagers shit all day.
Right.
That everything's just business as usual.
Yeah, for sure. Because they're trying to do all of it. I mean, I don't know. I think this would be a good place to stop, but we should keep doing this maybe next week or something else and talk more about different games.
Yeah.
I think this is a good
down.
Opening, just general talk about stuff, and then we can kind of hone in more shit.
Yeah, sorry if I go all over the place.
No, this is perfect. We were all talking about everything.
And I'm also bad at talking to an audience. I just like talk to you guys.
This is what we do. Awesome. And I think to all the listeners, we're gonna edit this, but to all the listeners, Mitchell does Immortalist, and he produced a ton of breathing problem tracks with us for us, and we haven't even begun to talk about his music and also his connection to like video game music. He made a mix that we're going to publish soon, but anyway, more to come. Thank you everyone for listening. I'm Rusty Kelly,
and I'm Amelia McKay, and
this is Breathing Problem Productions podcast. Bye.
Bye.
All right, later.